legends, I hope you're all amazing, and I hope you all had a fantastic weekend full of glorious guitar noises. It is time for another installment of Monday Q&A. A massive shout out to all the legends who support me over on Patreon. If you want to sign up to my Patreon and get access to some exclusive content and to help keep the lights on in here and keep my cats fed, that is linked in the video description. Along with the music that I make with my band Ragdoll, we did a patron exclusive Q&A last week. This week I have thrown it out to all of you amazing subscribers, and at the time of doing this video, we're actually very close to hitting 100,000 subscribers on the channel, which is pretty mind-blowing. I have to say thank you all so much to everybody who submitted a question for this week. I'm going to try to get to it. Let's go. This is a question I didn't get to in time for last week's Q&A, but this comes from one of my new patrons. Shout out to Rummy, who is enjoying their amp and guitar collection. They mentioned they've got a pretty lovely combo of a Friedman small box and a Boogie California Tweed. I'd really like to try both of those amps. Like I've mentioned with Troy on the Gear podcast a bunch of times, trying to get any of this stuff down in Australia sometimes can be a bit of a struggle, but Rummy, I'm glad you're enjoying that rig. You wanted to know, can you use the FM3 as an effects only unit and essentially use it as an amp switcher? I see absolutely no reason why you couldn't do that. I've set up FM3s for a few of my students who use them just in front of a very clean amp. One of my students, shout out to Chris if you're watching this, was using the FM3 in front of a Fender Tone Master Deluxe Reverb and essentially just replaced the wah, tube screamer, chorus pedal, and delay pedal they'd been using, and they got a whole bunch of extra functionality out of it that way. And I've also set up FM3s just to run in the loop of tube amps, and that works really well. Because you have a separate left and right output for output 2, which uses just kind of standard jack outputs on there, you could very easily set up two scenes that has your effects chain going just to the left output or just to the right output on there. So you could use scenes, you could probably use a volume pedal to morph between them on there. That would be a really cool way to do that. And that's something that I remember wanting to build with an analog rig when I read that Steve Morse did a similar thing using multiple amps and kind of blending them in. So Rummy, I see absolutely no reason why that wouldn't work. The plus side is you have an amazing sounding preamp and amp modeler to go along with it, and a great direct recording solution if you want that. I need both these guitars at the moment because we've got some real talk. I've mentioned how my SC245 is my main guitar, but I've been playing the DGT a lot on the channel since I got it. Is this the new number one? What's going on? Has it bumped this guitar? Well, this guitar basically lives in drop C, and it is very much the Ragdoll guitar. I've basically recorded everything we've done with Ragdoll on this guitar. Like I said, it lives in drop C. It's set up perfectly for it. I love the way it sounds when we're playing our songs, and it's one of those things where it suits my playing style, and I've also built my playing style around playing this guitar. So this one's not going anywhere. If I'm going to reach for a guitar to do a Ragdoll gig, it's going to be this one. Having said that, the DGT is probably in equal pole position. This is probably the best all-round guitar that I own. It's an amazing instrument. I love it so much. And I do use it a lot in standard tuning, which is why you probably see it on the channel more, because being in standard tuning, having the great humbucker sounds and the split coil sounds makes it a really versatile guitar. If I'm demoing a pedal or an amp, I don't have to constantly swap guitars on here. I can say, hey, here's a bridge humbucker, this is what it sounds like, and then instantly switch over to a neck single coil style tone on there. Yeah, so they're both amazing. You know, for me, I don't really think of it in terms of like what's my number one guitar at any point. You know, the best guitar, the best guitar in your collection is the one you actually play, right? So I play both of these quite a lot, and the CE24 standard Saturn that I got recently, I've been spending a lot of time on as well. Amazing sounding guitar. They're all good. This is why it's nice to own different guitars, right? You can have your number one, and you can have your number two, and you can have your number 13 or 16 or whatever it is as well. They all have a different character. But hopefully that explains why you see so much of this guitar on the channel and why you probably see more of this guitar if you watch live footage of the band. I talked briefly last week about my approach to basically fretting different things on the guitar, and we were talking about the pinky finger in particular. Do I have any exercises to build pinky dexterity or strength? My favorite thing to get the pinky involved is an old exercise I got from reading a George Lynch interview. I'm not sure where George got it from, but the basic idea is you just sit around a noodle, but you don't use your first finger at all. So, if I was going to play a lick like this, like that anyway, where my brain is thinking of what do I want to play, and my instinct is to just connect that with muscle memory to use, my first finger and my first three fingers, but I'm like displacing everything on there. Remember reading something a little while ago where it was an interview with a scientist and they were talking about, neuroplasticity and the brain, and the example they gave was like brushing your teeth in the morning. And if you're right-handed like I am, you grab your toothbrush and you brush your teeth first thing in the morning and you stare at yourself and you go, ugh, how did I end up like this? Their point was, one way you can maybe surprise yourself in the morning, do something out of the ordinary would just be do it with your non-dominant hand. So grab it with your left hand, and I'd encourage anyone to try that as well. Like if you're right-handed, try brush your teeth just once, all left-handed or vice versa. And that's the same kind of feeling on here on the guitar. So much of, I guess, the way we learn is, you have your sort of leading finger. So for me, my first finger is my leading finger pretty much all the time. We're changing that dynamic on there, and you can even start thinking to lead with your pinky finger. So that's one. Another great one that I have found is just practicing hammer-ons from nowhere with the pinky finger. So, a lot of people would play a line like this and pick every time they go to a new string. That kind of thing. I'm getting distracted noodling away on there. What I've found is that's a really great way essentially to play off against like making your pinky a little more independent and strong, and also being able to play with a light touch. I think it's less about, make the pinky strong and buff, and more about having the same finesse out of the pinky finger as your other fingers on there. So you could take something like that and you could start skipping strings like this. And maybe a third tip would be just practice playing some really simple riffs, say some power chord based stuff. Again, not using your first finger on there, so the pinky has to be involved. If you do try these ideas, I'd love to hear from all of you. Maybe try a few practice sessions implementing one or two of these ideas and see if it helps out with adding a little bit of extra zing to your pinky finger when you're playing. On last week's video, I talked about the financial challenges and the rising costs of touring, especially as an international act. I mentioned that on our last US tour with Ragdoll, we were able to pretty much break even. And this question popped up. I think it's a very good question that I just didn't clarify at all, is if that's the case, how on earth do we survive if we're playing as a band touring and only breaking even? Well, it's because we're not doing it full time. We're going out for a couple of weeks maximum at a time. I did explain some of how we're able to do that, where we're doing shows here. We're putting the money aside. We've essentially got a band kitty and everything gets fed back into the band. But when we're not doing that, we have day jobs. Ryan has a family and a career. We're also doing freelance work. I do a lot of acoustic duo gigs here in Perth. I teach guitar. People support my YouTube channel, whether they just watch the video and click like and subscribe, and maybe they have to sit through a couple of ads on here. There's the advertising revenue. There is the revenue that comes through my Patreon. Thank you to all the legends who continue to support me on there, because they are literally helping to keep the lights on in here. They are keeping my cats fed. They're making sure that I can sit here and talk to you and do these Q&A videos and curate the channel in the way that I want to, so that I'm not purely relying on ad revenue and on doing paid demo videos. That is obviously a part of it. So it's very much a pretty diverse skill set on my end there. I've been teaching guitar since I was 15 years old. So that is something I'm just very used to there, doing gigs, doing YouTube, just trying to do a little bit of everything to make it work on there. I did go to university and get a degree. I have an honors degree in pure mathematics, and becoming an academic or a statistician or something like that was something that I was considering in my late teens and early 20s. I figured out there's only going to be one time in my life that I get a shot to be in a band and to go on tour. And that has led to so many amazing experiences for me. So trying to make that work over, say, the last 15, 16 years is all part of the fun, part of the challenge. Sometimes there's definitely times when I'm like, why didn't I just get an office job and, punch a 9 to 5? There's other times where I think I'm just so incredibly fortunate to be doing what I'm doing. But the fact that, again, we're not touring full time, we're not relying on that. Ragdoll, the original music that I make, is my passion project. I want that to be kind of like as true to the way we envision it as possible. And, while saying we do it part-time might sound like we're not taking it seriously, we take it very, very seriously. And the fact that we're unwilling to compromise on the music has led us to, I guess, kind of stumble across something that seems to work. We're able to put out music that we like. We're not tied to a record label. We're not in massive amounts of debt. And we can go out and have fun and enjoy the shows and meet people and do all the other amazing things that come with playing music. I am incredibly fortunate. On the topic of touring, any funny tour stories I can share? A bunch of you were kind enough to share some very funny and relatable stories last week. So a couple come to mind. We were staying in a place called Camdenton, Missouri, which for a boy from Perth, Western Australia, may as well have been on the planet Mars. I didn't even know this place existed. We played a show locally. We ended up going over to somebody's house for a barbecue. We stayed there. There was a party and got to about 4 a.m. where we were all like, we need to go to sleep. We were going to drive from there to Albuquerque the next day. So a pretty long drive. We wanted to get a good start on that. And I managed to lay down on the couch, pulled a little blanket up over me. And just as I was closing my eyes, just as I was like, the music has died down, everybody's quiet or passed out, I'm maybe going to get 3 hours sleep and that will mean I'm fine tomorrow. The loudest sound I've ever heard in my life erupts from this home stereo in the room that I'm in. And it was a Ragdoll song. It was a song Foot to the Floor, and this first chord just hit. And I just remember sitting up straight, and Ryan was in the room with me, and we both looked at each other, and I was like, that's it. We need to get out of here. And he was like, calm down. It's okay. And somebody stumbled in and, they were just kind of like, yeah, you guys are awesome. How good's your music? And at that time I was like, it's not, please turn it off. This is an all-time one I love telling. I was playing with friend of the channel, Troy, and Gear podcast co-host. You all know Troy. Send Troy some love in the comment section below. Doing a gig with him again in Kalgoorlie, and Cam, Ragdoll's drummer, was playing drums, and we were sitting at dinner. This guy in a Kiss t-shirt comes up to us and he says, I saw you guys last night. Yeah, really, really good band. I really, really enjoyed it. And just kind of offhanded, Troy goes, Kiss. You like Kiss, do you? Great band. And he was like, I really, really like Kiss. Yeah, I love singing Kiss. And I'm probably butchering the way I'm telling the story. Nevertheless, Troy just goes, great. Come down and sing some Kiss with us tomorrow night or tonight, whenever it was. And he goes, okay. Leaves. And we're like, yeah, we're never going to see that guy again. He's just a dude who likes some Kiss. Obviously, this guy had gone home and been like, right, this is my moment to shine. He decked himself out. We're halfway through like maybe the second set of this gig. There's, I don't know, 2 dozen people just kind of, casually dancing around. They're not that into it. And yeah, this guy comes in. He's like, I'm ready to sing some Kiss. And we're like, all right, man, jump up. And he's fully decked out, like I said, moment to shine. He gets up and grabs the microphone and goes, are you all ready to get licked? And everyone just kind of looks like, what's happening? And then starts doing this whole frontman thing like, no, I want to hear you. Are you ready to get licked? And we sort of looked at each other going, what is happening? I think he wanted everybody or expected everybody was going to be like, yeah, this is like what you see in the movies. This is a Kiss concert. And a bunch of people just kind of doing this one. A few women sat down. Anyway, we played Lick It Up by Kiss and it was absolutely terrible. It cleared the dance floor. A bunch of people left. There was hardly anyone left in the venue. And we were all like, yeah, that was a great idea. Let's never do that again. But there's a person out there who had a fantastic time, and that was a person singing the song. So, yeah, Choose wisely, ladies and gentlemen, when you ask strangers to get up on stage. It might be amazing, but 9 times out of 10, it's that kind of very, very awkward situation for everybody involved. Anyway, is anyone ready to get licked? That feels like the perfect point to pull up stumps on this Q&A. If you have a question for next week's Q&A, please pop it in the comment section below. If you like what I'm doing here on the channel and you want to listen to some music that I've made, Ragdoll's discography is linked in the video description. My Patreon is linked in the video description, and some of my presets and blocks are available on Gumroad if you want to download them. And again, chip in and support what I'm doing on the channel. Have a fantastic week. I hope you all get a chance to play your lovely guitars and make some glorious guitar noises. And I'll see you all on the next one. Cheers for tuning in.